I want to tell some of the specific technologies you always use in the context of Plone. That's not common for all web developers or other software developers. And I want to show some example projects where I use Plone in a very special context, but that's might interesting. So, well, basic skills, it's the technologies and tools you need or use for working in web development, and it's about philosophy. Well, I started using Plone 2004, and with Plone, I was introduced to Python. Well, I know a lot of persons that still stuck either with Java or PHP or something like that. They don't know the right tool for the job. Version control. I know still a lot of persons that's making copy of their files instead of using a version control. So that's basic skills. But if you don't have them, well, your customers get scared. So it's a process you work on. And the mindset you're getting with it. So you always have a way back to a working version of what you got. And you can work with distributed teams effectively. You learn about the problems of repeatable environments, so it's not a Sisyphus work you've done. You know what it means to make something production ready by having a development setup that is as close by as it could be. And it is repeatable, so you can switch from your laptop to another server and you have a repeatable environment. So you know, if you debug something, that could only happen on these systems. And you have tools for it. We don't handcraft it and set up. We use setc build-out. We use provisioning tools like Ansible, Batu, Salt, or Puppet, or something like that. That's not what everybody is doing. And it's about quality. If you know the Plone community, you know we expect you to write tests for your software. It's all about tests, tests, and tests. If you do not test it, we don't know if it's working. So unit tests, integration tests, acceptance tests, all the frameworks around. So from basic PyTest or doc tests in former times up to robot tests. We have code analysis set up so that you know if something on your code is not following the guidelines. There are modern tools like quantified code that really gives you a good view how good the quality of your software is. And, well, those who are sitting here are not in the talk of Sven, but I think that is one of the most important quotes from his talk he's doing in parallel. Documentation first. Think about the process of writing the documentation for your project as the true act of creation. I always think documentation in open source projects is the API. If you haven't write the documentation before and described what you want to do with your product, nobody else knows it and can intercept you before you're doing something weird. And it's the same with the PLIP process. We have a documentation, what we want to achieve with our software before we implement it in the core. So it's a kind of process. And documentation is very important for it. And yes, developer documentation is not end-user documentation. And I guess a lot of people here are from universities, so like me, the end user is the person that is important in a lot of points. So we developed the systems to have the end user fulfilling their goals with the content management system. And it's not about that the developer has always fun and can use the most fancy stuff. It's the user that counts. Well, one thing I really like is the knowledge of the Zen of Python, because there are so many philosophical truth in. That's so fantastic. So the explicit is better than implicit. If you're doing a lot of debugging, the magic from Grok everybody hates, I guess. Or is there somebody who has used Grok for a while and still loves it in the Plone context? No hands. Yeah, and readability counts. And, you know, there's enough cases from the Zen of Python that we use in the Plone community. And if you translated it for other software projects, as you were writing some software in Java, Ruby, or something else, it works there too. It helps you a lot. And well, it's all about the community. Is anybody from 4Digit there who can read the quote on that? Who knows it? The picture in the background is from the Plone Conference 2012 in Arnhem. Arnhem was a city mostly completely destroyed by the German forces in the Second World War. I think the meeste Menschen zwegen in weniger. It's about most people were silenced, only a few act. And that's the same for open source. We have so many users of open source software, only very few people act and doing software contribution to it. And that's also a part of doing software development. I think in the book, Cathedral and the Bazaar, it said, every person contributing to open source software already belong to the top 5% in computer science because there are so few people contributing back, and all of you here participating in open source community, and you already belong to those tops. But yeah, it's about how we act, and as we always say, it doesn't matter what you contribute. If it's code, yeah, but also every bug report counts, every documentation written, every translation, every marketing. So look at Paul. Paul is a fantastic campaigner and everything. But if you look at his code, well, but we like him. And we love him too, that he participates and brings his skills into this community. That's fantastic. And the one thing that always fascinated me was how welcoming the community is. 2010 was my first Plone conference. I was nobody known in the community. And we always say it about Plone has no rock star. But, well, if you are new in a community, there are a lot of people saying, oh, this is Eric Steele, this is Alexander Limy. They are treated like rock stars by them. For me, it was fabulous in Bristol. I think on the second evening, I'm standing together with Matt Hamilton, drinking a beer, and Alexander Limy. 2012 in Arnhem, it was Martin Asbelli. I have shared a breakfast together, and it was fantastic for me because I'm feeling really, yeah, that's approachable persons in the community. And I want to ask you, sitting here, who is that your first Plone conference? Yeah, anybody here who's... So we said, it's normally come to us in the evening, we will definitely drink a beer with you. And definitely the first beer goes on my bill. Yeah, so it's about how we as a community welcome people. If you haven't feel the community of other open source community, they are very harmful communities. Plone is a very open and fantastic community. So Lawrence Rose said it at the last block, you can't take the man out of Plone, but you can't take Plone out of the man. So the skills and the community you have learned here is something you always take with you. Well, there's lots of things you always know how or what's the way to success. I think there is a good quote. you should surround yourself with the right people. So people then that are smarter than you. And there's a lot of people that are smarter than me in this audience that I'm looking up to. And that helps you. This community helps a lot, everybody. That is fantastic. The people that want to get you ahead, so they're not stopping you because you can getting more success than themselves. They help you. And they get you out of your comfort zone. Because if you're not leaving that, you're not learning something. And a lot of people make you smile here. So well, as I said before, the user counts. So for us, as the developer, we want to have fun if we're developing software. But it's the software we develop is for the user. And the user doesn't care which system is used. For them, it cares that the system is working. And it should not distract this user. So not when you log in, if you change or switch to another system or something like that, don't have different backends so that you have a totally different look and feel, working environment or something like that. If you can provide them with a smooth user experience across all your applications, the users will love you. And well, I like Plone because it is a content integration framework. You can integrate everything in it. 2004, one quote, I'm not sure, maybe could be Andreas, was, yes, you can use Plone for it, but you should better use this or this system, which is specialized on it. If a community knows what their own system can do, and for what situation you should not do it, but how you can integrate it, that's the right attitude for it. And that is fantastic. I've seen so many other communities, from TypoDry or other things, where they said, yeah, sure, my system is the right tool for it. And it's a horrible pain in the ass to implement something in them systems. Well, also one point was this. I'm not sure. Who knows this video from John Kelly, Better Web Application Development? The most important point is it's all about rapid turnaround. Rapid turnaround is absolutely vital. If you're not able to make changes in a quick way, you're not working on user interfaces. And the user interface is the most important thing for the end users. If you have a different user interface for editing than seeing your website or something like that, it distracts the user. So it's absolutely vital. The video is from 2006. It's about 30 minutes long. The first 10 minutes are completely true today. If you don't know it, watch it up. It's really a good thing. Another thing is you should know the market. You should know which tools are used out there, which is their focus, which is the scope of them, where are they better, how you can learn from them. And you should know what is the best of breed software. We as the community have often started doing something on our own, then seeing another competitor is doing better. Who remembers Pound? Pound was a load balancer. I guess no one in the Plone community anymore uses Pound. Pound was done by Zope people in some way. Well, today we use HAProxy or Nginx for load balancing. And it's much, much better. And we do not need the energy and time to maintaining legacy software. And we act together with other communities. So in Germany and Europe, there's the CMS Garden project. So that's the open source content management systems that acting together, presenting them together at exhibitions like the CeBIT, DMS Expo, or I think OSCON or something will be the next thing. So we learn from each other and we interchange with their communities. So we are not used to make the same mistakes that other has done before. We read it if we look at the Drupal community. They do at the moment the same stupid things we probably have done with Plone 3 in some ways. They didn't learn from our experience. We can learn from theirs because we interchange with them. So a few special things, I guess, you that working a long time with Plone knows already, but that's maybe not true for everybody. So users, authentication and authorization. A lot of people don't know that you can separate them, so that there is a difference between a shared ID and a single sign-on. What is a shared ID? What is a shared secret? So that you can, even with Plone, very simply go through cross domains just by having the same shared secret, and you don't need another login. Horizontal and vertical single sign-on. How to integrate something, tools like Shibboleth, Kerberos, or something in your stack, so that the Windows login is directly given to your website and you're logged in. Infinitive scaling. We know how to scale systems up. I had a lot of, or as I started at the university, I've taken over a lot of PHP and Ruby applications that didn't scale at them, hadn't scaled at that point. Using the knowledge of how we scale Zope applies there exactly the same. So I scaled up my PVIC installations, my Redmine setups, and it works. So the knowledge you learn here applies for others. And you know how to make software 24/7 available. High availability setups, so you can do an upgrade of your instance with no downtime. How to change the infrastructure because of the scaling. You just replace one server and it doesn't matter. Your user didn't experience any downtime. And you even learn how to handle different users in different ways. So, for example, Jens, in his talk about rel storage, said you can handle a logged-in user completely different on different backend servers than the logged-in users. Who knows that from other systems? So it's basic skills in our community, but most of the web developers don't learn that. Learning about the caching tools. I think it was in Brasilia, or so where Dylan showed a setup where they're having a caching time of just 1 minute, but they can handle millions of requests per minute with that setup. So that's just to get the translation of small things that you already have in your stack, what it helps you. That's the thing. And, well, most web developers forget what's the time that the user accepts for getting a response and get a rendered site. So there was a study from the University of Nebraska. It is only 2 seconds. If your website did not respond, fully load, in less than 2 seconds, the user didn't remember anymore what he likes. So it's a distraction, and they don't like it. So that's a point where the user's starting to criticize your system. And well, we know already that we have several different systems in your stack. Who has applied the last hotfix, so Plone for cross-site request fixes to their setup? Who has mentioned or seen this code? So that's a small workaround that works in older Plone versions to get the most vulnerable attacking routes cut off. So, 5 lines of code that helps you if you're not doing it in the system that is vulnerable. So, finding a shorter path to make a solution. So, I want to show a few examples where the skills I've learned in the community helped me a lot. So, I'm working at a university where corporate identity is extremely important. We said, we are a brand. We don't get the money from the students or from somebody if they couldn't identify themselves with the things. So, brand identity is extremely important. And you always have the problem, you do not have the money to buy the best, most experienced systems or something like that. So you get sometimes systems that work but are not themable. So we had the problem, we want to offer a print service, a cloud print service for our students. It didn't work. We got a good system, but it wasn't themable. It doesn't look like our university. Well, we do have Diazo, and Diazo works standalone. So that is what comes out of Diazo now. The vendor of this printing software said they have never got a working solution of their software beyond an Apache. This works beyond an Apache perfectly. We have no downtime, we have no failures with it. Well, who knows me knows that I have been in the German Armed Forces for 13 years. I've done a project 2008 for the German forces in Afghanistan based on Plone. So that's an intelligence system where incidents at the Afghanistan areas were catched up. So everybody can take a note, take his smartphone out, make a picture, and it's directly uploaded to the Plone system. Plone is perfectly for handling content. And information like that is content. The only thing that the military likes is maps. So everything has to be visualized on a map. And archetypes. Archetypes did has an SQL storage backend. So you have a flexible storage backend. That was perfect for it. So you just write the data to Plone, and the backends write it to an Postgres database, and so the map was immediately corrected. It's perfect. Also, just to get one website, or it looks like one website. So on the right side, that's a project we're doing at the moment. From a political reason, we have to use the old content management system of our university that's just making static HTML exports. It's a horrible old system. It didn't get any feature upgrades since 2008. Well, political reasons we have to use it. But most of the things we want to have don't work. So there are 3 parts of this website coming directly out of Plone. It's just the inclusion of the data, serving it under one domain name, having single sign-on between the systems so that the RCLs of Plone applied for the other systems. So the knowledge, what is client-side include, how server-sides include works, directing something through different paths on one domain are the knowledge you can get in this community. And it helps you a lot. So, well, my system is a bit complex, so I do have about 20 different servers. I do even have 2 different identification systems included. So it does do single sign-on via Kerberos for the Windows logins, but it didn't use the Windows login. So not the shared ID we have in our Active Directory. Our IDP server looks up the Kerberos ID, then looks up in our public identification system the different identity, and this is used by the system. So there's lots of crazy stuff inside there, but it works. And the knowledge how to combine data is also about search, because if you're serving different content or different systems from one domain, you should find all the content in the search. And we do have so fantastic capabilities of having different backends, like Solr, Elasticsearch, Google Search Appliance, and it works. We get the content. So the live search, all the search backends are provided by Plone, so we can even use the Plone ACLs for the search. Having a live and advanced search with facilitating and everything, and getting the content out of the other system. That's our skills that not everybody has. And, as I said before, rapid turnaround is absolutely vital. Even user interfaces are important. So that is an example of a custom edit form with quick uploading, file sorting, image cropping, and everything. Our user love that they don't have to switch to a backend to just write a blog or a notice board entry. And that's fantastic. That's the thing you can do with Plone. But well, if you're starting new systems, I think this quote from Jengel is fantastic. A complex system that works is invariably found to have evolved from a simple system that worked. A complex system designed from scratch never works and cannot be patched up to make it work. You have to start over with the working simple system. And Plone, well, Plone is not a simple system, but it is a fantastic working system. And it's the fantastic foundation for most complex setups you can have. So it's the fantastic content integration framework. So yeah, you learn a lot of skills in the Plone community. And if you're in the beginning and complaining that it has a step learning curve, yeah, it is a hard way to learn all the skills you could have. But if you have learned it, you're mastering it. And the difference between a master and a novice is that the master has tried so often and failed so often that the novice has never tried. So you can move fast and break things if you know how the way back that it works again. And only if you can move fast, the people think you're, I think there was the discussion of about a 10-time developer. At my university, sometimes they think I'm a 20-time developer comparing to all the others because I have the skills from the community learned. And it's because I can move fast, because I always know a safe way back. And that helps. And that's the basic skills we have in the beginning. It's version control, testing, and everything. The repeatable build-outs or setups. If you don't have them, you're lost in some way. I think Matt gave yesterday a good talk about his experience in iOS app development. And it's always, or almost the same experience. He came with the knowledge from the Plone community and started over and getting a lot of attraction in there because he has a momentum of knowing things, how it could work and moving quickly. And that's it. And well, if you're mastering Plone, you're mastering in some way software development. You're ready for liftoff. And I can really say making web development is not rocket science, but I feel more comfortable programming these helicopters by the knowledge I've got from the Plone community. Thank you. Any questions? So no questions. So I repeat my invitation. Everybody who's new, the first beers tonight goes on my bill.